Hey everyone, it's Karley Hall, and in today's tutorial, I'm going to show you how to sublimate on a ceramic mug using an oven. Before you ask, can this be done using my own kitchen oven? Technically, yes, it can be done, but I would not recommend you sublimate using your kitchen oven. The reason why is because when you use sublimation ink, it converts into a gaseous state when it's heated up, and that gas can coat the inside of your oven and eventually end up in the food that you're ingesting. So I would highly recommend not doing this process in an oven that you cook food in. But if you want to use a standalone oven that you just have for crafting, a small toaster oven, or an oven that's specifically made for sublimation, like the one that I'm going to show you today, that's what I would recommend. All right, so let's get started. Here's a look at the WalaPress sublimation oven, and I will show you how all the controls work and the settings that we want to achieve. You can see in the manual, we're doing an 11-ounce mug that's specially coated for sublimation, and we need to set our oven to 392, and then we'll place it in there for 11 minutes. So to power on your oven, I have it plugged in, and you'll long press on the time button to power it on. And then this oven has two heating elements. So there's an upper and a lower, and it recommends that you set them at the same temperature. But since we're doing a temperature in between 390 and 395, I'm going to set the upper one to 390 and the lower one to 395, since they only have settings in 5-degree increments. And I haven't seen anywhere where I can change that, but if you have this oven and you know how to increase it just by a single degree, let me know. If your oven is not showing in Fahrenheit and you need it to, you can long press on this button here, the upper one, and it will adjust it from Celsius to Fahrenheit. And here it looks like Celsius will go up and down by 1 degree, but Fahrenheit, let's see. Oh, so Fahrenheit, if you adjust it by Celsius, now it's jumping in 5 degrees, but at a different setting. So that's interesting. So I could go back to Celsius and adjust it and then get it exactly at 392. So that means that we're at 200. I want this to go to 200, and then we'll long press. All right, so now we have it set at 392. Okay, the next thing is it's not heating yet. In order to tell the oven that you want it to start heating, you'll click this button here. I'm not going to press it just yet because it gets a little loud, but when you press it, the timer will not start until it reaches the temperature at 392. So what I'm going to recommend is that when you're ready to heat, turn your time to 60 minutes and then just let it go, because it's not going to start counting down until you hit the temperature. And then we'll use a secondary timer outside of the oven, because if the temperature drops, the timer will take a little bit of time to start. So I'll explain that when we put our product in the oven, but we'll press the start button and then we'll let this come to temperature. While the oven is heating up, I'm going to prep my design. And this image was printed on my Epson printer using Hippo ink. I will link everything in the video description so you know exactly what products I'm using in today's video. I had 2 printed and then I used one already, so I'll just trim this one down so it wraps around our mug. A couple things to note about sublimation. When you print out your image using sublimation ink, it may appear a little more dull than you anticipate. So it will be duller, and then it will transfer a lot more vivid. So you can see here in my practice mug that it transfers a lot darker than what it prints. If you're looking for the dimensions on my rectangle, I'll add those in the video description so you know exactly what size I used for the Cricut 11-ounce mugs. I'll add that information. And again, all the products will be linked in the video description. With sublimation ink, when you're working with the ink, you want to try not to touch the image because the oil from your fingers can take off the ink on the paper. So try to avoid touching the image as much as you can. And the same thing goes for the mug. You'll want to hold your mug by the handle and avoid touching the surface with your fingers as much as possible. So we'll take the mug out of the wrapper and we'll just try to touch just the handle. And then we're going to wrap our image around the mug and secure it with some heat-resistant tape. So I have my image, and I'll just wrap it around the mug and just rotate it so that it's as even as possible around the handle. Just place one piece of tape to hold that down. Then we'll wrap this side a little tighter and secure it with some tape. After these pieces of tape are secured, you can tape the rest of the mug. So I like to tape it all the way down the side. And when it's a full bleed image, I also tape the top and the bottom. I know that may feel like it's overkill, but I don't want any of the ink to come out of the top or the bottom. And in order to get nice, clear, crisp lines on the edges, I want to make sure everything is taped down. Next, we'll take 2 sheets of butcher paper and we'll secure those around the mug as well. And this will prevent our image from blowing out onto our silicone wrap. So I'm just going to wrap it around the edge of my mug and then just tape it into place with one piece of tape. If you don't use butcher paper, you may get some blowout on your silicone wrap. So you can see on my wrap, there's a little bit of ink from previous projects. It doesn't affect any of the future projects, but in order to avoid that altogether, I would recommend using butcher paper to protect your mug. Now, the most complicated part, in my opinion, is using the silicone wrap. So to use the wrap, we're going to place the metal edges down onto our table and then place your mug roughly in the center. And you'll want to have the buckles kind of meet in the center. So have the buckle come under the handle here, and then this long skinny side will insert into the slot. And you'll just clamp those together. So you squeeze until they clip together. We'll do that one more time because I didn't have the silicone all the way around the base of the mug. So I'll show you that one more time. So make sure that your mug is centered in between the silicone mat. And you'll place the buckle so that it's against the handle. And then the part that you're inserting into the buckle, you'll slide that under and then squeeze until they clip together on that little metal clip. And again, my wrap goes over just on the edge, but you want to make sure that the wrap is wrapped around the bottom of the mug and the top of the mug so that all the edges are pushed in, providing the pressure you need to sublimate. So if they're not, you can adjust it and just make sure that all of your edges are under the silicone. So while the oven is coming up to temperature, I'm going to set my timer to 5 minutes and 30 seconds since we're going to flip our mug halfway through. So this 5:30 plus 5:30 will be the full 11 minutes. And you don't necessarily have to do this, but I do feel like you get a more even transfer if you flip it at the halfway point. So our oven is still heating up. You can see that the timer is still at 60 minutes. If you want to check the current temperature, you can hold down the middle button and it's at 318. So we're almost there, 323. And we want it to come all the way up to 392. All right, so we're up to temperature, so you can see our timer has started. So now we're going to place our mug in the oven with the handle in the back. So I'm using a heat-resistant mitt. I will link this in the video description because I absolutely love this one. So I'm going to open the oven kind of quickly and place the mug inside. You don't want the door to be open and release all of your heat. So we're going to open it kind of quickly, place it in the middle. The benefit of an oven is that you can fit multiple mugs in there. I'm just going to do one for the purposes of this tutorial, but keep in mind that you can place multiple projects in here all at the same time. So we're going to open it kind of quickly, drop it in the center of the oven, and then close the oven pretty quickly. And you can see, let me start my timer. So I have my timer going on the side, and then I want to show you that the temperature dropped all the way to 372. So if I were to change my timer right now and then adjust it to be 5 minutes and 30 seconds, for example, it wouldn't start the timer again until it hit the 392. And you can see it's taking a little bit of time to climb back up to that temperature. So I don't want to add an additional minute or so onto my project time because what happens with sublimation ink is if you add too much time, then the image will start to disappear. So black ink will start to turn orange and it will fade away. So I'll show you a project that happened to while I was testing. So you can see it's still climbing back up to temperature, but that's okay. The time can be going. We've been in the oven for almost a minute. The time can be going while it's climbing back up to the temperature. It will not affect your project. And that's why I just recommend setting it to the 60 minutes and then letting it just tick down and using a third-party timer so that you're not worried about it over baking because it still hasn't come back up to the temperature. I did keep the door open a little long since I was chatting, but it does take a little bit of time for that temperature to rise back up. All right, so my timer just went off, so I'm just going to quickly open it and then just rotate it so that the handle's in the back so that I can easily remove it when the time is up. So I was trying to be super quick to open and close that oven really quickly so that I didn't let any more heat escape. You can see that a little bit of heat came out. It dropped just a little bit more. And then, oops, let me start my timer. So we'll start the timer and that will be in there for another 5 minutes and 15 seconds. I'll pull it out 10 seconds early since I started that a little late. All right, so the time is up. I just powered off the oven and I'm just going to grab out my mug and place it on a heat resistant surface. So I have my Easy Press mat. Make sure that your Easy Press mat is also on a heat resistant surface. I put this on top of my self-healing mat, even with the Easy Press mat, and it completely warped it. All right, using my other oven mitt, I'm going to hold my mug, and you can let this cool down, but I want to make sure that the transfer is stopped. So I'm going to unclip my silicone wrap. Again, make sure that this is on a heat resistant surface as well. And I have my weeding hook, and I'm going to grab the tape and just peel away the tape to remove the butcher paper. So the butcher paper, and you can see quite a bit of blowout on that butcher paper. So it only went through, I guess kind of on the second sheet too. So 2 sheets of butcher paper is recommended. Now I did tape this quite a bit. So I'm going to grab my weeding hook and untape around the lip. You can see a ton of blowout on the tape as well. So good thing that we taped all the way around the top and the bottom. And here is the mug. So on the edges near the handle, you can see the crisp edges since the tape was all the way down. And then you can see just how beautiful the ink transferred along the top and the bottom. I have tape on my hand. That is a perfect transfer. If I would have gone off the timer on the oven, it would have been over processed and would have started to evaporate. So learn from me and my mistakes in terms of using a cell phone timer or a regular standard timer and not the oven timer because it would have been completely over processed. So as you can see, this oven produces fantastic results so long as you trust a timer separate from the oven. The first couple of projects were major fails because I trusted the timer and it did need some time to kick back up to the temperature, when really you can start having your timer elapse even if it's not 100% back up to temperature. So trust your third-party timer and go off of that and don't go off of the oven timer. Just use the timer as a start-stop. So use it to start heating and use it to stop heating, but do not rely on it for accurate timing of your project. In terms of other projects that I will do in this oven, I still want to try skinny tumblers and things without handles, and I will be using shrink wrap. If there are other tutorials that you want to see, leave those in the comments and I'll be happy to film those for you. If you're looking for any of the products used in today's video, I will put all of those links in the video description. Okay, I think that's everything. If you have any questions, leave those in the comments as well. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.